This might just be the most affordable Joy-Con alternative. This is the Omelet Super Deck. Yes, this is a Joy-Con alternative for handheld mode only, because obviously, you know, it's this bridge kind of style, but this fits both the original Switch and the Switch OLED, and it's insanely cheap. But despite it being so cheap, the specifications are ridiculous. So let's consult the box, because everything's nicely displayed. So this says, limited edition Omelet Super Deck, no eggs included. We've got Hall effect joysticks, comfort, ergo grip, zero latency because it is not Bluetooth, it's actually hardwired via USB-C. We've got dual vibration, and then on the back we've got even more. We've got game card storage, integrated stand, we have active turbo mode, we've got gyro, customizable RGB, screenshot button apparently, mechanical triggers, and pass-through charging as well. So normally I save pricing to the end, but I'm doing away with that. I'm gonna just tell you now because this is ridiculous. This comes in at £25. That's less than $30. Less than $30? That is insane. Considering a competitor, the cracked Nitro deck, can be nearly 3 times the price of this. Now, I won't be comparing this to the cracked because this is a super budget option, but for all of those specifications you've just seen there, $30, £25, this is absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, let's take a look at it. So this is the Super Deck. And straight away my eyes went to these. I was like, what are these little things? And it actually says Switch OLED and Switch LCD. So if you've got the OLED one, you push it up to the top. If you've got the LCD, the original one, you pull it down. And what that does is moves this rail inside, right? So if I want that one, see how that just popped out? That is to make it smaller to fit the original LCD Switch. Whereas if I pop this up, you can see it resets back to allow for the extra width of the Switch OLED, and the same on the other side as well. We've got our USB-C connection there, we've got our USB-C pass-through there, we've got our D-pad, RGB button, a brightness button, a turbo button, our Hall effect sticks with an anti-friction RGB ring around them, but no metal anti-friction ring, which I wouldn't expect at this price point anyway. We've got a yellow one, by the way, this is clearly a sort of GameCube inspired aesthetic, right? Purple, grey, yellow, like reminiscent of the C-stick. But anyway, another Hall effect stick here. We've got a screenshot button, a rumble button, a home button. We've got our face buttons and a yellow minus and plus button there. On the top, we've got our R button, ZR button, ZL button, L button. And then you can see along the top edge here, we've got game card slots just there. Then we've got this, which is a stand. Now, they've done one thing, I have no idea why they've done it. I really don't know. They've put a sticker over this stand, and it's one of those awful stickers that when you try and remove, oh great, yeah, wicked, thanks Omelet, like yeah, that's really good. Yeah, brilliant, okay. So it says something under there, but I've no idea what it says because I can't get it off and I can't be bothered to try and scratch that off, but whatever. This is a kickstand just here. We've got airflow holes for the back there for the original Switch, because obviously the Switch OLED has its vents on the base. But anyway, you know, they've still accounted for the original Switch there because it fits both. On the back, we do have some etched in grips all the way across the back, and it goes over all these horns and across the front just there as well before it goes back into just smooth plastic. But it's very, very minuscule. You don't honestly feel it that much, but you know, it's more of an aesthetical choice. Now, because it's got this USB-C connection, you just slide it down to the top. There's no like gripper rails or anything. It just holds it in by pressure fit, right? So it does sit in there snug. It's not gonna just come out at all, you know, so it is just sat in there nicely. And yes, I know you're going to ask, but no, you cannot turn it on from the home button, right? You still have to press the power button, but again, at this price point, I think that's totally valid. Now, obviously, mine's already set up to work, but if you get one of these, there's one thing you need to do first, and that is enable wired Pro controller connection, right? So we're going to go to the controllers and see where it says Pro controller wired communication. You need to have that on first before you install this, otherwise it won't work. So turn that on first and then dock it into here, and then it's actually going to work, right? And then you're good to go. And now you can see the RGB LEDs, which are actually really bright. If you press this RGB button, it changes color, like so. And then next to it, there's a brightness setting. So you can change it from really, really bright to like dim, medium bright, and really, really bright. I'm gonna just put it on low because, you know, it saves battery and all that good stuff. But the RGB button, you can cycle through different colors if you wish, and then it will go back to this kind of rainbow one as well, which, you know, is pretty cool if you want it. We'll go over the turbo button and all the other buttons in a minute. Let's just sort of feel the rest of the device, right? So in hands, it's actually balanced really well. And these ergonomics are great. If I turn it upside down, you can see how much of a horn there is to sit into your hands in. This bit does like angle down, right? So from here, it kind of glides downwards and back. So it fits into your palms really well, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, you've got this big notch just here, but that's for the USB-C pass-through. Again, we've got that kickstand, so you can just stand it up, but it's not really adjustable. It's either out or not, right? So that's something to take into consideration, but at least it has a stand. And yeah, in the hand, it feels really nice. You can get to the D-pad very easily. As always, because of this asymmetrical layout, it's kind of difficult to get to this right stick, but because it angles down quite a lot and there's a nice big rounded horn on the back there, it's not too bad, especially if you sort of lower your grip just slightly, then you can get to these sticks just here and you'll be able to play FPS games, not a problem. I've definitely felt worse. This layout isn't actually that bad. It's a pretty comfortable layout. And getting to the rest of the buttons is actually really easy. Face buttons are all accessible, D-pad's accessible, sticks are accessible. All of these are out of the way, which you won't be using very much anyway. And then it's just your triggers and your bumpers. And then of course there's no back paddles or anything like that, but honestly at £25, $30, did you really expect it? Now face button wise, let's feel them. Now they are just membrane and they do like bubble out, but they are lit with like white LEDs, right? Which I do actually find quite nice, especially in a dark environment. It's quite nice that they are lit. But yeah, they're perfectly fine buttons, nothing wrong with them. They've got a bit of pre and post travel. They're a little bit mushy as you would expect from membrane. But again, at the price point, I really wouldn't expect anything else. And these are very nice. They work, they don't get stuck. They return nicely. These are solid buttons for the price point. Same with the D-pad. D-pad protrudes quite a lot from the rest of the controller. It's got a very slight concave on it. And yes, it is an 8-way D-pad that if you rock it, it does input to those angled inputs, right? There's no like 4-way mode. So if you want to be able to move your thumb right and not move there, for example, then, this is not the D-pad for you. But again, at this price point, I'm giving this one a big pass on most things, unless it's absolutely critically broken. This is really good for the price, right? So yeah, it doesn't have the best ever D-pad, but again, I wouldn't expect that on this kind of product. Does it have a good usable D-pad? Yeah. Yes, it does. It's stiff, it's not overly mushy. I quite like it for playing platformers like Mario just here, which is what I do mainly. I'm not a big fighting game guy. This one is perfectly fine. The triggers then are actually really consistent. So they are very consistent. There's a bit of pre-travel, but only very lightly and towards the tips just here. There's quite a bit of post-travel, but again, you can feel the click very specifically and it's not overly bad. The triggers then, because we've got digital triggers because we're on the Nintendo Switch, these are actually micro switches, right? They've actually gone mechanical on the triggers. Now that's wicked. I'd love to see a whole version with micro switches in the face buttons and the bumpers as like the next price jump up. But at this price point, to have micro mechanical switches as the ZL and ZR, that's brilliant. Especially if you are playing shooters like Doom or anything like that, you're going to get the quickest inputs. They have an audible click, as we know from mechanical switches, so take a listen. You can hear that click, right? And generally, they have a much larger lifespan than like a membrane button does, right? So that's actually really, really good. And the same with the sticks. Now, the sticks here have tiny little toppers on them, but I actually really like small toppers because it's still got a large module, right? So the module itself is actually really large, so you still get a good range of motion just here, but the topper on the top just there is very, very small. But for me, that's perfectly fine. If the module and the stick itself is like full size, but it's just got a small like head on it, I'm fine with that. If the whole thing was small, like a Joy-Con joystick, then I'm not fine with that. But they've done the right thing here and given you a proper sized joystick with absolute, you know, decent movement. Now, these have Hall effect joysticks. Now, if you don't know what Hall effect joysticks are, it means it won't drift. So the Nintendo Switch suffers from drift, right? So what drift is let's say I wasn't touching the controller, right? But Mario's now like very slightly moving right all the time. That's what drift is, where the stick's not doing anything, but it's inputting a direction, right? And the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons are prone to that. These will not give you that. It will not drift. They are much more accurate as well with lower dead zones so that they're just more accurate, right? And again, at £25, $30, I'm blown away that this has them. With anti-friction rings, this very, very smooth joysticks. They really, really are. Now let me show you all those extra features. So I've shown you the brightness and the RGB. We've now got turbo, right? So with Mario here, see he fires a little fireball. If I press turbo and then Y, and now if I hold it, he's firing like double speed. Maybe it's better if I show you jump, right? So turbo and jump, and now you can see him just jumping like a maniac. If I press turbo and jump again, do you see the buttons now showing it as well? And I'm not even having to hold it, and he's doing it. And if I press it again and hold, it pauses it, but if I let go, then he's going to continue, right? But if I press turbo and B again, now that's cancelled it out. So it's just gone back to a normal B button, okay? So that's what that does. But you can actually turbo loads of buttons if you really wanted to. So I don't know if it will show on camera, but all of these are flashing because I've just turboed every single one of those buttons. And it's insane that you can turbo so many buttons. A lot of controllers won't let you turbo more than one button. This lets you do loads. I've done it on all of these, on the triggers as well. It's just ridiculous. And if you want to cancel all of them, press and hold the turbo button for like 5 seconds, and then it will vibrate. There we go, and everything is turned off. Now we also have that vibrate button, and that's going to cycle through off, like a small amount, medium amount, and a large amount, and then off again. So there's 3 different settings. I'd recommend the first or second setting because yes, it is a bit of a tinny sort of like tight rumble. It's not a big, heavy swooping rumble, but there are dual motors, so one in each side. And I'm glad that it's got rumble at all. Even though it's not my favorite rumble, I will be honest there. But again, at this price point, I wouldn't even expect to see any rumble. So I'd much prefer to have some kind of rumble than none. And the fact that this has rumble and it's tailorable via this specific button, I really like it. And I actually really like the fact that all the buttons are laid out on the front. So you never need to remember a button combination. There's a lot of controllers out there that will require you to use one button and then loads of other combinations. So like button and joystick, button and hold certain like, you know, other buttons with it. And you always forget. I never remember which ones they are if I'm looking for a specific thing to change, right? Like the RGB or something like that. I always forget and then I have to fiddle around for ages before I remember it. With this, there's no messing around. It tells you RGB, brightness, turbo, rumble, you're done. Like very, very simple. And I really like this product. And of course we do have these. I know I brushed over them, but you can store an additional 4 game cards in there. So you can just put them in there and you know, you're ready to go. I just think this is brilliant. I can't understand how Omelet have managed to do this for so cheap and actually make it good. They sent this over and then later ended up sending what the price would be and stuff. And when I was testing this, I was thinking probably about $45, $50, something like that. You know, $50, about £40, £45, something like that. That's what I anticipated here. And then when the price came through, £25, $30, I was like, what? And I had to say to AJ, I was like, is this a mistake? Like, how have they managed to do this for £25, $30 and make it good? Like it's, you know, the build quality is good. It doesn't rattle. The thing is, it's really good. The specs are ridiculous. As you can see, I am blown away by what they've managed to do with this. And that's a good thing. You know, I know the Switch is coming to the end of its life. But the thing is, so many people are going to be staying with the original Switch and the Switch OLED for a long time yet. Maybe not even upgrading. And if you're looking for a handheld only Joy-Con alternative, this is absolutely fantastic. Like, it really is. I can't praise this enough, and I'm quite shocked by this. And I'm not shocked a lot because I see a lot of products, many that don't even make it into videos, right? But I had to show you this because the price was just so good for what you are getting. Brilliant, I love it. Well done, Omelet. Like, thank you for making something decent for consumers, right? But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about the Omelet Super Deck just here. Let me know down in the comments whilst down there. Like this video, subscribe, become a member, and you can see these videos early and talk to me and AJ over on our Discord channel. Talking of AJ, check out our podcast over here and check out another video from me down here. Bye.